Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. Today I've got my dog joining me just for the introduction. I think it's been a couple of videos since you guys have seen him. This is Harvey if you have not been introduced, and today we are going to be talking about the high-end eyeshadow palettes that I tried lately, and we're going to be ranking them from the worst to the best. So I think he's getting a little sleepy. We just went for a W, so he's tired, but let's get started with our eyeshadow palette ranking. There are 7 eyeshadow palettes that I have thoroughly tested in the last few weeks, so we're going to be talking about all 7 today. The last place palette, or the one that disappointed me the most. You guys, I'm really devastated to report this, but it's actually this one from Bobbi Brown. This is the Luxe Metal Rose eyeshadow palette. This is definitely in last place because although this color story is fantastic, I think it's really nice. Like, they're definitely on point when it comes to their theme, which is like metal rose, right? We've got those metal tones, we have those pink elements. This is a perfect holiday palette, especially for those of us that want more of a muted look. Nothing too bright, nothing too intense, but this is one that fell short for me because of the shimmer shades in particular. So we do have some really gorgeous mattes in here. They're actually about 50-50. Half of them are varied shimmer textures, and the shimmers are where this palette fell short, which is nearly half of the color story, so it's actually really significant. These mattes blend beautifully, apply beautifully, are very opaque, soft, and creamy. The shimmers, when you actually apply them with a brush, they basically do not apply at all. No pigment seems to be translated onto the lid, and all you get is fallout. This is sort of an interesting hybrid baked gelée formulation within these shadows. So I tried a denser brush, didn't help. Tried a fingertip. That got the most pigment, but still not enough. It was almost like I was really dipping my fingertip in there to get something, and it just never seemed to come to fruition. This is my favorite shade in here. This is Pink Blossom. It actually is a matte. So this is the only one that I can say is like my favorite. Everything else I've either had in my collection already, maybe in a different formulation that's just as nice performing as theirs. And then the shimmers I have in my collection already are much better. But it's sold out, it's discontinued, it's not coming back, and I would be interested in trying more Bobbi Brown out, but probably not the baked gelée formulation hybrid thing they've got going on with those shimmers. They're just not impactful on the lid. Definitely not one that I'd recommend. This is the Metal Luxe Rose palette. A fail. I'm going to talk about the next palette because this is one I know a lot of you guys are going to want to know what's been going on with this one. This is the YSL palette, and first of all, packaging, 10 out of 10, you guys. If you are a YSL fan, if you love the Saint Laurent fashion house at all, if you have any of their bags or are kind of yearning for a bag and maybe it's on your wish list, such a gorgeous packaging. Like, it reminds me of a clutch. It has that leather that's actually got some nice stitching. Why is it ranked second to last? Because of a couple things. The color story is definitely a little bit different, and I actually did buy this knowing that going in, obviously, because we do have like a bright yellow, really deep purple. This quad is very easy to visualize looks with. This one too, kind of on this end, and then we've got a couple shades to add some depth. So I thought, yeah, this could actually be a really good palette. I mean, the Christmas one blew me away. It was an absolutely fantastic palette. It sold out instantly. This is one that's kind of still around, and I was like, maybe this is going to be a similar formulation. So this is what's on my eyes today. If you guys can see what's on my eyes, it is very watercolor in nature. Now, the YSL formulation has a very soft, powdery finish and a very lightweight feel on the lid, but it really is a soft watercolor kind of effect. So it's not like you have no pigment, it's just that the pigment is very lightweight, and it's sort of like hues. We're playing with hues here. We're not playing with pigment forward, really bold, anything richly color forward. It's really just this watercolor effect is the perfect way I can describe this. You can see on my eyes, we don't have creasing or anything, but we do have the lightest wash. Now, when it comes to if I like this palette versus the Christmas one, this formulation, in my opinion, really depends on the shade. I'm so sorry this is a discontinued palette, but look how absolutely beautiful this is. Like this one also, packaging, right? Like, YSL did really great. So this is one to me that not only is the color story a little bit more easily kind of comprehensible for the average user. I mean, this is one that you can really see like, okay, we've got some light to depth. We have a lot of shades to work with that are going to be complementary. That watercolor formulation does better when there's richer pigments on the other side. If you have bright colors, it's going to look very, very light on the skin. If the colors are darker, you have a little bit of a chance of actually developing your look maybe to more of a light to medium opacity instead of a hue. The purple is very, very rich. I actually have the purple underneath my eye today, and the black is really nice and easy to use as well. But for swatch, they're a little bit inconsistent. So just so you guys know, don't just rely on the swatch for this one. It's a little bit of a surprise because they are very soft in nature and buildable. Just like the Chanel formulation, if you guys are familiar with that, it's not quite the same texture here, but Chanel is also one that you have to layer because it's quite light at the beginning. I would rank this here because there's a few poor performing pigments in this one. The Christmas one is a 10 out of 10. The only thing I could say about the Christmas one is that there's a little bit of redundancy, but the shimmers are so well done here. These are a little bit lighter. This one, for instance, that like light purpley pink on the very end, it's quite light. Like we're talking sheer to light for opacity. Then you can build it up to a light. So it's not going to hit that medium or that full opacity where you've got an opaque color. This is going to be much, much lighter. So if you're not a fan of that, it's not going to be for you for sure. I think people are probably going to assume that there's no pigment if that's not your style, right? But there is definitely pigment. It's just not quite the rich forwardness that we're used to from like Pat McGrath or Natasha Denona. This yellow is also a little bit dodgy. It is kind of like a bright highlighter yellow, but it translates very like poor on lid. So even if you see something like this and you're like, whoa, it's actually really nice highlighter yellow, it's going to be bold. No, it's kind of like that light wash of a highlighter yellow. And I'm not sure if that makes it more appeasable for people because it's not quite as bright, or if it's like too light that why use it because it really doesn't even look like anything. It looks like a light wash. That's going to depend on you. But for those of you that like it, I think it's because you like this style of look. Still beautiful, but a very specific style. Coming in palette 6th position is actually the latest mini from Natasha Denona. This is the mini Biba palette. So this is actually a really consistent mini with the exception of the matte. Yes, the creamy matte on the very end, which is Bruno. This is right here. When it comes to detailed work, you can absolutely use this for, you know, shadowing on the outer corner of the lid, maybe on the bottom lid there to kind of line and add some depth. Totally fine. If you make this the focus of your look, I'm telling you it is patchy, inconsistent, dry, certainly not the matte that she's used to producing. So for some reason, maybe it's my palette, but this is one that's a little bit off. Really, really love the shimmer in the middle of this palette. This is the showstopper, in my opinion. It is so beautiful, so rich, so opaque. Makes your eyes just look super glamorous. The other shades in here are stunning. We do have two other mattes in here that are much more consistent, and then we have a cream to powder on the very end. Now the cream to powder is very unique to Natasha, and it's actually one of my favorite formulas that she does. So it's really nice to see that in the mini Biba. If you're a fan of the original Biba, this is certainly not like a snapshot of Biba, right? Like it's a little bit different compared to the original palette, but this is more of a complementary palette. So if you have Biba, you can absolutely add these tones in to add some kind of versatility. But don't expect this one to be like, oh, well, I don't want Biba because it's too expensive or it's too big or whatever, so I'm gonna get like this mini because it's not as much product, but it's the same shades. No, 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 no. These are all brand new shades, but certainly complementary to that palette. This is a palette that I don't know if it's still available, so I do apologize if it is not, but this is a palette I hauled last year, and I was like, holy crap, I don't think I updated them on this one. So I figured I would include it in this countdown. This is from Suku, the Japanese makeup brand. I think it's Japanese. It does say Japan, it's made in Japan, and there's like, I think Japanese on the back of this palette. If I'm wrong, please let me know down below. This is the Suku Designing Color Eyes in the palette number 136. I will try to find this color story if I can, but this is the beautiful, beautiful quad. So, so stunning. Reminds me a bit like how it's set up, like a Charlotte Tilbury luxury eye quad where you've kind of got like that bit of sparkle, so like a pop shade, if you will. We also have the mattes and the satins, so very interesting vibes, very similar to Charlotte Tilbury. That being said, in my opinion, these are a little bit more powdery, but they're still very rich. They're certainly not the same formulation as Charlotte. This actually pop shade or shimmer shade in this quad is much more opaque than a traditional pop shade from Charlotte. Depending on the quad that you pick up from her, some of them have more pigment forward, some of them have more shimmer forward. This is one that's quite pigment forward. It's really, really beautiful. And this is also like, we've got some gorgeous satins in here. Love the pinks. This is a perfect Valentine's look. Very easily you can achieve that. I also love the dark kind of chocolatey brown matte in here. It's absolutely gorgeous. I would certainly pick up more from this brand because the consistency of this quad is amazing. Even though we are in the 4th position, I hope I didn't say 5. We're definitely on palette 4. This is still a very lovely palette, and I know that they often change with their color quads and stuff, so I hope this is still available, but if not, I will absolutely find something similar, or I will link to the lines. You guys can check it out yourself. Let's talk about palette number 3. Now, palette number 3 is actually a palette that I kept wanting to get. I was like, I want to get it. No, didn't get it. Changed my mind. Pulled it out of the cart, put it back in, put it back out, put it back in. And so many of you guys were like, you need to get it. It's a necessary palette in the collection. So I figured I'd finally pick it up and review it. This is the Supreme Nudes from Artist Couture. This is the palette that speaks to me out of their line. There's a lot of them that have quite a bit of like bold reds and yellows, but this is my favorite color story. It gives me very similar vibes to the Anastasia Beverly Hills and Mario collab. That is a palette, may she rest in peace, that I miss dearly. So when I saw these tones, I was like, wow, this is pretty dang close, isn't it? Now, the consistency of this palette is also very, very high, which is why she's ranked in 3rd. She is very, very strong when it comes to pigment, when it comes to blendability, when it comes to how you can put looks together. This color story is very easy to visualize, very, very strong as well. The shimmers are great. There's a bit of fallout with all of these shades, by the way, but a little bit more excessive fallout with the shimmer just because I placed them with a fingertip. And for this one, it does tend to fall a little bit faster than the mattes. The mattes do offer a little bit of fallout, but not as much. Love how smooth these mattes are though. They just glide over the lid. And I just love how these are absolutely your everyday friendly shades, which is why it's called Supreme Nudes, right? If you have tried this palette or any others from the line, let me know. But this is a line that I think is kind of under the radar at the moment. There's not a ton that's been appeasing to me, but this is certainly one that blew me out of the water. So I'm really excited to keep an eye on them. And if there's other eyeshadow palettes I like, I think I'm going to be picking them up in the future. We are down to the last 2 palettes in this ranking. The first one is the Ombre Mediterranean palette from Chanel, or the Bridgerton and Pat McGrath palette. So which one do you think made it to the top? Because both of these are amazing, and both of these made it to my January favorites. Which one? They're so hard to pick, honestly, because they're like apples and oranges. Like, these are totally different formulations, so which one do I like better? I'm going to say in 2nd place is the Chanel Mediterranean Quad. The reason why I say this is because when it comes to the Pat McGrath, there's a little bit more to choose from, and we'll talk about that. But this is a beautiful everyday friendly quad from Chanel. No duds in here at all, but do expect to layer these pigments. They are not going to be those rich, medium to full opacity right away. They're sort of like the YSL, like I said, where they have that soft hue, except these ones can be built a little bit more. The YSL palette I talked about seems to max out at about a light opacity. You can get a medium out of Chanel for sure. Now, this is like your golds on a summer vacation. It absolutely reminds me of when I went to Greece. Like, the vibes on my eyes, I was like, yes, it's like Santorini vibes. I don't know. I'm crazy. Just ignore that. But I can see why that's the name of this palette, right? Because it does have those really gorgeous tones. This is a really beautiful, like, gray olive color. This is a lovely one. It's like a white gold. We have a brownie gold. We have a nice bronze here. It's so, so pretty overall. And I actually use all of these shades every time I use it. So you can use just 1 or 2 shades at once. That's not a big deal. But I actually use all 4 to add that dimension. It's just so perfect. And I really love how this one is just your everyday look amped up. There's that metallicness to these pigments, really nice shine. It's just sort of like the everyday look, but like amped up a little bit, like a true soft glam. So I love this one. You can see the swatches are actually quite light because they are something to be layered, but when it comes to putting a look together with this, it's pretty foolproof to do so. And I can't wait to use this on a trip sometime soon. I hope that is possible. In first place, we have the limited edition Pat McGrath and Bridgerton collaboration. This was actually restocked recently. If it's still in stock, I will link it down below. If this is a palette that you see yourself using, by all means, this is a fantastic one. I do think that we do have a lot of these tones in our collection already. That's my guess. But I do think that if you love the show, if you want a palette like this, if you love Pat McGrath, the quality is maintained in here. This was always my initial fear. When she does do certain collabs, sometimes things get skipped or a little bit, I don't know, not as rich of quality gets produced. I'm not sure why, but I think it might be like the area that these pigments are made in. I'm not sure, but this one's made in Italy. You know what that means. The 10-pan motherships are also made in Italy. We have very similar finishes in this palette as well. She's definitely offered quite a variety. That's what I really like about the 10-pan motherships. It's kind of like this showcase portfolio of what Pat McGrath can do. Her gorgeous creamy mattes, her beautiful shimmers, her beautiful Blitz Astrals, and all their varieties. This is a palette with 6 pans. She did a lot. There's 2 shimmers in here. There's a matte. We have satins as well. We have this shimmer over here, absolutely stunning. A little bit more shimmer forward, I would say, compared to these 2 shimmers. And I actually posted one of my favorite looks on Instagram not that long ago. I love this one. I was so worried that this might not work out. And then upon finally finishing my testing, I was like, oh, thank goodness. This is probably her best collab she's done. I really wanted to get the Supreme lipstick collaboration, but it's like gone. Like it's sold out and I don't think she ever restocked it and I missed it. I was like, ah, crap. The Star Wars one, I ended up having some mixed emotions about and then I skipped it myself and I heard some mixed reviews about the quality anyway, so I was kind of glad I didn't get it. The other cardboard packaging, like the trio, trifold one she's done, have kind of disappointed me in the past, but this is one that did not. It is so, so pretty. Love the design of the packaging. The cardboard is really high quality. This is in palette number 1 because it is fantastic. What did you guys think of this palette countdown? Should I do more of these? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe for more high-end and luxury makeup content. And until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.